Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. And in this conclusion to our Queer as Folk Horror Month, we take one last trip to Sweden with the lads as we discuss the 2017 film The Ritual, directed by David Bruckner and adapted by Joe Barton from the novel by Adam Neville. Wow, just some British people. I'm David.
I'm Marilee.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Doug.
Doug, we could
Hi.
not go on a camping trip with just the three of us. We need a fourth person.
Oh, a really valuable addition to your outdoor excursion, I assure you.
Well, you know, you're not new to the podcast. You were on when we talked about I Saw the TV Glow last year, so we're so happy to have you back. For any listeners who might be new to the podcast or haven't listened to that episode because they're waiting to watch the film, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and where folks might know you from?
Sure. I mean, it would be weird if anyone knew me from anywhere other than Glitterjaw. It means you know me in my personal life, and I don't know how you found this, but I'm now uncomfortable. I have a bunch of shows on Glitterjaw, and I can try to pretend that I don't have too many podcasts, but all four of them are currently active at the moment, which isn't usually the case. So there are a lot of them. I do a weekly Spider-Man show called Walloping Web Snappers. I do a bi-monthly show called Novel Gaming, where we do a book club and some video game talk. And then I have two movie podcasts, Screonk, where we go through all the Godzilla movies, and Falling with Style, where we go through all the Pixar movies.
And Falling with Style is officially back. You're launched a special presentation to cover overt queerness in films that are made for children and young adults. Introduction episode and 2 episodes out now on that feed if folks want to listen to it. That's been so fantastic because, of course, what Screonk is sort of Derek bringing you into the world of Godzilla, and what Falling with Style was always you sort of bringing Derek into the world of Pixar. And now you're sort of going on a journey together into this world of like very overt, it sounds like such a like formal word, but like very open representation.
Yeah, we've been saying clear, unafraid, and unambiguous.
Perfect.
Love
Oh, that's beautiful. I love
We
that.
started with explicit, but people will twist that, so.
Yeah, that's a different movie podcast that
Right.
we could cover. Well, that's fantastic, Doug. Thank you so much for being on. And before we get started talking about today's topic, I of course want to check in with Doug and my 2 co-hosts to see how things are going for them in the landscape of horrors that our real world has to offer. What is making you all scared, and what is making you feel prepared? Doug is our guest. Of course, we would love to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, given the real world, my mind has been totally preoccupied with podcasts. So that's all I've really been thinking about. And while I could be scared that I'm venturing into a territory of Falling with Style where I'm no longer sort of like the sole expert because we're covering movies I've never even seen before by filmmakers I'm not familiar with, I feel more prepared because we're doing something really
That's
exciting. Folks have already responded pretty well to what we've done so far. And it's been a nice way to sort of turn, we get into this in our introduction, but turn what felt like a lot of anger towards Pixar into action for other people to sort of benefit from as well. So I'm feeling very prepared with that project, even though it is adding a lot to my plate.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Already, you've found some really cool things. I, personally was delighted that Joe's apartment got a mention on the Nomura
Couldn't
episode.
believe anyone responded to that moment.
The first film that launched the MTV Films network. And
You're correct.
We're about a week out from it, but featured in my discarded notes from our Gimmicks episode on Adventure Time, because there is a link between the start of MTV and the development of Adventure Time as a cartoon. So it's a we're all in her web. Doug, I guess is what I'm saying.
I appreciate those types of journeys because we were talking about Nimona and started with Joe's apartment and Tron.
Yeah.
So, it happens.
Perfect. Just what a doubleheader at the drive-in. Let me just tell you, Tron and Joe's apartment.
Yeah.
I would have died. I would have just died as a teenager. Incredible.
This is like incredible, like advertising to get people to listen to Falling with Style. By the way, because like what
It's
a
all
description.
part of my plan.
It's all part of the plan.
It's actually remarkable though, because I didn't know that I would be on for this one at this specific time and I wouldn't have known that Falling with Style was doing what it's doing. So this is actually totally perfect, happy coincidence.
Yeah. See, it's perfect.
We're in her web.
We're in
Exactly.
her
In
web.
her web. We're always in her
I
web.
give myself over to Madam Web.
Doug, I'm so glad that despite referencing Madam Web, you are prepared this week. That is wonderful and great news to hear. Marilee, how are you feeling this week? Scared or prepared?
I gotta tell you, I'm feeling pretty scared this week. I'm so
Tell
sorry.
us, Marilee, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know, man. The horrors just got to me this week, and I had a migraine a couple days ago. I'm still not 100% right. It was just like, I woke up feeling not great, but I was like, sometimes you just gotta power through it. And then by noon, I was like, I need to get home right now, or I'm gonna have a crash out here in this public place, and it's not. Like, I barely made it home before the migraine got too bad. It was just...
Ugh.
That was a rough Thursday, and I'm still not great on Saturday.
Yeah.
God.
But, it's just the horrors, the stress it's got to me, man.
Real.
Yeah. And migraines are not new in your life.
No.
Something you've had to,
Thankfully, I don't have them as much anymore. Maybe 1 or 2 a year now. I got really good about trying taking better care of myself. So the conditions for that perfect storm don't happen as much anymore. But they still happen, and it just is what it is.
When I used to go to medical or go to conferences, I went to a medical conference because it was all about the other public health stuff, the stuff that I actually know about and care about. Mm-hmm. But I went into the wrong room and I sat in the front row, and it was for medical providers, and it was all about migraine, how it happens, how you treat it. But they were you needed an advanced biochemistry degree to understand anything that was going on. But I couldn't. But I was. Now, later in my career, I was like, yeah, you totally can leave a session. But then as baby, brand new professional, I was like, I can't leave because everyone will judge me. Mm-hmm. So I sat there for 90 minutes and I took notes because I didn't know what else to do. Mm-hmm. But I understood nothing except at the end of it being this is the most complicated medical thing that exists in the world is a migraine.
That is also so cruel because that feels like telling somebody how to make gold and not using any terms they understand.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Doug, truly. And people in the audience started getting excited about something, and I was like, oh, I guess I should be excited too, because this is a breakthrough in migraine treatment, which is cool, I guess. But yeah, it was really incredible. And here's what I really know, Marilee, is that it sounds like it is one of the worst things to go through because it's so
not
compounding.
Cute. It is not good. Has anybody here had a migraine before?
My mom does, and I get pretty nasty tension headaches that will leave me basically done for the day. So not quite a migraine, but from what I understand, pretty close.
Yeah, it's not I get really photosensitive, specifically, more than anything else. I get so photosensitive, but I will also get really nauseous to strong smells. Mm-hmm, it's just the pain is so bad. I forget about it. By the today, I don't remember how much it was, other than it was so painful. I was just in a lump for most of 12 hours.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Awful.
I am glad that your brain is doing what it needs to do to protect you from that memory. So good job, that part of the brain. Mm-hmm. The other part of the brain that started the cycle, bad brain.
Get it together.
You go
Get
in
it
the corner.
together. I think I just stressed myself out too much, and that was my body's way of dealing with it, which sucks. Don't do that again. How about you, Tyler? Are you scared or prepared?
I'm actually feeling prepared this week.
Tell us about what's got you feeling prepared.
So, I've talked about this before, where I'll try and play a really popular video game from a really popular franchise, and then I'm like, it's just not hitting with me after 2 hours. I got to put this down, and then bye-bye. I have finally begun to circle back around. So in January, I got into the Resident Evil games after being too scared to play them. Mm-hmm. Then I got into the Division 2, which is kind of scratching my loot itch because I stopped playing Destiny 2. Mm-hmm. However, Ubisoft really bad at stopping hate from spreading on that game.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's literally a corner alleyway in the game's map of Washington, D.C. that has pride flags up, and that's it. That's all the pride stuff that they have, which is a little weird for an MMO kind of game. So then I have finally come back around. Well, thankfully, because of work, of all things, I got reminded of the game series Fallout. And I'm just like, okay, I have Game Pass. I should try a Fallout. And I'm playing on console, so I was like, I can't play New Vegas because I know New Vegas needs a lot of mods to make it as awesome as it should be. So I'm just like, okay, let me play Fallout 4. And I get it now. I get why people like these games. You're literally in the wasteland. And there's stuff everywhere, and it's all trying to kill you. But then you just blow it up.
Oh, okay.
And that's, you stop time and you select body parts to shoot. That's fun. And you can also install mods to put queer stuff up. Like,
incredible.
I love that.
We love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you've begun playing Fallout 4, which means that you're playing in the engine of Fallout 76, a game that we've discussed on Pod. And yet it was work that reminded you of this.
Because work...
Explain yourself.
Okay, so...
Did you go to Boston for work or what?
Shout out to my work buddies that are listening to this podcast because they do. We had a retro this week that was themed after Fallout. And then that reminded me of like, Fallout is supposed to be fun. I should go try this.
This interaction just here is very like, I've been telling my partner to watch the show for years, and somebody at work just told them to watch it, and they started watching it coded.
Hurtful.
Just feel like we've covered this, Tyler.
Well,
but you know what? It's a big tent. Glad you're here.
You know what, David? You know what? Last year, I did play some Fallout 76, and you know what happened? This isn't clicking with me. I think I'm gonna put it down.
That's fair.
Then I come back a year later.
That's healthy behavior.
Yes.
Listen, when you circle back around to the evil residents, you let me know, okay?
Okay, I will. I started playing Resident Evil 4, and then I think I got burnt out because I just played through 2 and 3 so fast. So I put that down.
The RE make or the original?
The RE make.
Got it.
Okay. I know that Marilee's going to force me to do this one day. So this is really just you getting on Marilee's side on this.
Yeah.
What's that, playing a Resident Evil game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I've never played any Resident Evil game. I have seen the films with Mila Jovovich.
Yeah,
they're a different animal. I like some of them, to be sure, but they're a different animal, David.
Okay. She's very sexy.
She looks cool. She looks cool in like a red dress and like big boots.
She's in a movie like right now, David.
Oh, what?
True.
What movie is she in right now?
She's in a movie with Dave Bautista called like The Land of the Lost or something.
Wow.
I've never heard of that.
Well, I say she's in it right now, but it could have come and gone by the time you get to a theater. Who knows? But based on that reaction,
what I have learned, luckily, is that it takes things forever to get here. Since I didn't see The Substance until like 3 weeks ago.
Brilliant.
And so maybe Land of Time, Land Before Time, the land that time forgot, whatever it is. I will go see.
Yeah, she's playing Littlefoot.
It finally gets here. I would love that. Dream casting, honestly.
Yeah, I would pay real American currency for that.
Yeah.
So Tyler, well, I'm glad you're prepared. I look forward to you continuing to explore the Commonwealth and just discover all there is to offer.
I will report back and let everyone know.
Please do.
Until I put it down in 2 weeks and then forget about it for a year.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
If it brought you joy, then it was time
exactly.
well spent. Well, then I'm going to wrap us up. I am feeling prepared as well. Last night, see, here's the deal. I think that I claimed that I never have any fun socializing. Then my friends listened to this podcast and they asked me questions about it. But last night, it was a friend's birthday here in town and we went axe throwing, and that was a very fun experience and it made me feel prepared. And I also want to say to my friends who are listening, you are not always drains on my social battery. Like, it is enjoyable to hang out with each other. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Leave 5 stars. No, we went axe throwing. It was a lot of fun. Here's what I've learned, that if in the event that there is some sort of cataclysmic emergency, say that I had survived a nuclear explosion and needed to go out into the wilds and scavenge for, I don't know, yum deviled eggs, an axe would not be my weapon of choice, because throwing an axe it's incredibly difficult to do, and the ability to be accurate with it is even more difficult. But on top of that, there are a lot of other things you get to throw at the axe throwing range. And I am bad at a bevy of options of throwing weapons. Ninja Star, not good at throwing.
Was going to be my very first question.
I love that he had it. Not good at throwing it. Small Bowie knife, not good at throwing. A large axe that you use 2 hands with and throw over your head, not good at throwing, and surprisingly did not hurt myself. So even though I'm not very good at it, I had a good time learning that I'm not very good at it, and really isn't knowledge half the battle.
So you will not be restatting your life character to accommodate a new favorite weapon.
That is correct, Doug. That is absolutely correct. I think my current build of using my maxed out charisma stat and no other stats having points in them is the way to go.
A bat.
And a bat.
A bat I won't use particularly well, but I have.
Wield it menacingly.
I just got a wonderful vision, David, of you being like a Final Fantasy summoner, and the creature that you summon is a bat with a bat, and that's how you use the bat.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, because I can cheer it on. That I can do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But to actually no, it's everything. I have 5 dump stats and charisma. Like I'm living my life here.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that we're all here. I'm glad that we're together. I'm glad that we've thought about our last week. But today, we're actually talking about our favorite country in the world, Sweden. Going back. Going back.
Of course.
I've had a blast in Queer as Folk Horror Month, and Marilee and Tyler have picked some real bangers. But wow, if we don't ever talk about Sweden again. Because today, we are talking about the film The Ritual. This film surrounds a group of 4 folks after the tragic death of their friend. These lads from London take a hiking trip to northern Sweden. The men are able to memorialize their friend atop a mountain, and then various occurrences drive them towards an old-growth forest as a shortcut to their lodge. That night, strange things begin to happen, and they don't stop.
After coming across a horribly creepy shack, the friends are picked off one by one by an unseen creature in the woods. Eventually, the protagonist Luke is the lone survivor as he attempts to escape a cult dedicated to the creature itself, a bastard child of the god Loki, which looks like a massive deer with human arms. It's a very effective design.
Yes.
The Ritual received moderate praise upon its release. Notably, the novel the film adapts from has some differences. For instance, the ancient people Luke finds in the attic are described as having goat legs in the novel, but in the film, they're just spooky, scary skeletons. Also missing, a couple of teenage boys who worship the creature and have their own black metal band called Blood Frenzy. Alas, the movie is poorer without them. What's everyone's experience with The Ritual? Doug, you are here as our guest, so obviously we have to start with you.
Yeah, I don't have like a deep history with it, but it is a movie I've seen before. And like a lot of people probably would say, the thing I remember and loved about it was the monster. It's a very cool monster. It stuck with me anytime this movie has come up in conversation. What I can offer is it's got a really cool monster. If you like really cool monster designs, check it out. But I admittedly did not remember much else from this one before rewatching.
I'd wondered, Doug, if you had ever messed around with the book. You are a bit of a you read a fair number of books, and horror not exactly off of your shelf.
Yeah.
Have you messed with the Ritual novel?
No, I actually didn't know it was based on a book until preparing for this.
Oh, cool.
And I don't wish I had read the novel before watching this book based on some of the things Marilee's already told us are not in the movie. I think I would have been disappointed. But I am very interested in reading the book. And so I like this direction instead. I like having watched the movie and then I will get to the book.
Yeah, I had considered trying to read it, and then before making the decision to loan it, there was a 712 pages looking at me, and I thought, I cannot do this in 4 days. So I did read a synopsis and was delighted to see that this black metal band carries a significant amount of character weight, and what a departure from the film that we were about to talk about. Marilee, what is your experience with The Ritual?
Well, so I've been racking my brain. I cannot remember if my friend told me to watch this or if it's just something that I stumbled upon on Netflix. But my most vivid, I remember immediately afterwards talking with a lot of my artist friends who go feral for creature designs because we go crazy for this one.
Yeah, we stand this giant deer woman god thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the monster was the thing that I first heard about with this movie. I probably saw it on a list on Twitter or Tumblr or whatever that was the best creature designs in horror movies. And this was referenced, and I had to look it up because I was like, well, what the hell does it actually look like? And I looked it up, and I was like, holy shit, this thing's awesome. So much like with Doug, I would also recommend this movie to anyone who is a big fan of creature design or walking through Swedish woods for 45 minutes.
If you like looking at forests, this movie, beautiful.
It's got it. It's
beautiful. If you love looking at Romanian forests, I will point out.
Yeah.
You will love
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
Yeah. Throwback to
Gagged.
the episode of Banicula. We are in the Carpathian Mountains for filming this movie. Very exciting.
Illusion
Chester would
busted.
be so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. This is in Sweden.
Well, we did talk about folk horror is all about deception and stuff. So now we, the audience, are deceived as to the true location. Is it Sweden? No, Romania.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Not Southern California, so I'm happy as excited.
Right. Not Vancouver,
Here's my deal: is that like Marilee, I saw this on Netflix, and I said I'm absolutely never going to do that. And then it was selected for this month, and I was like, great. This was a very spooky movie. And it's been a weird month for me and an actor named Rafe Spall, because I know Mr. Spall from his lead role in a series on Apple TV Plus called Trying, where he is a young man or slowly middle-aged man who's trying to have a baby with his wife, and they are unable to, and they've been struggling to do so for 4 seasons. And he is a comedic genius in it. But this month, not only have I watched this, but as Tyler knows, I have also watched Jurassic Park Dominion, Jurassic World Dominion, whatever, where he is the most mustache-twirling, evil, I'm going to sell you genetically modified dinosaurs, spoiler alert for Jurassic whatever. So it's been really fun to watch him in this, where he is using some serious acting chops.
Oh, which one is he?
He's the main guy. He's
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
He's evil in that? That's fun. I hated Jurassic World so much. I did not watch the sequel, even though I'm a huge Jurassic Park nerd, so.
Yeah, I'm with you
Yeah,
there, Marilee.
You could watch it for Rafe Spall, and Rafe Spall alone that you will get.
Give me the Rafe Spall supercut, please.
Rafe Spall supercut. Okay, great. I recommend Trying, though now that you've seen him in this, it's really weird to watch him telling fart jokes, because that is how I came into this. I came reverse. I was like, oh, this is a comedic actor, and he is really grief and guilt are big things that I look forward to talking about today.
Well, that's great, David, because we have a whole series of themes that we're going to be talking about today. So our first theme up for discussion is If I Had a Nickel. A grief-stricken person goes on a trip with some questionable friends to Sweden, experiences hallucinations, gets trapped by a secretive community, and ultimately chooses whether to join in their worship or escape. No, I'm not talking about 2019's Midsummer. I'm talking about The Ritual, which came out a whole 2 years prior. Of course, we're not here to accuse Ari Aster of plagiarism, but this is a great opportunity to compare the themes found in Midsommar with those found in The Ritual.
I just love that there is this sort of grief guilt mixer that sounds like a really terrible drink that Rafe Spall's Luke is giving for us is so fantastic. And but as you said, Tyler, and as we sort of crafted this month of Queer as Folk Horror, starting with Midsommar and ending with this as a bookend, it really is just if you're going to go any place where old gods might still have dominion, I think, get your affairs in order up here. Get your mind in a happy, do some meditation, whatever you need to do. Because if you've got other issues going on and you show up to Scandinavia, I think that you're going to be in bad times.
Yeah.
Bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have evidence for that? Because I feel like one of these guys is pretty level-headed and might be the first one to go.
Well, or don't take your emotionally distraught friend with you. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what it is.
you say he's
you could be
level-headed, but I actually think there's a lot more interesting going on with Hutch that we could talk about
these
later.
guys, these men.
That's these men, and I'll get to that.
These men.
Like in 2 minutes. Give me there.
Wow.
Well, our next. Well, maybe I'm gonna flip the script, everybody. I'm gonna move our third theme to become the second theme because
Tyler is picking up his table and knocking it over right now.
I'm so upset because, dude, where's my sympathy? Oh, men. Similar to the friend group in Midsommar, we follow a group of supposed friends who aren't exactly the most pleasant bunch of people. They mostly snipe and bicker at each other, and that's before they get lost in the primeval woods. The men are not intentional with what they say to each other, and they work feverishly to hide any evidence of weakness, such as a hurt knee, or peed pants, or any other things that happen to the lads. I kind of want to ask you all this question, because to me, like, these kinds of movies where men are, like, emotionally constipated makes me think of this as, like, a criticism of, like, 21st century man being incapable of discussing their feelings. Even back when this movie was coming out, we were riding a tide of men feeling like, I can't talk about my feelings, that's really feminine, and men are supposed to be like super dom and masculine, because that's what this YouTuber told me. What do you all think about it? Do you think that this is kind of part and parcel with like the trajectory of men's emotional growth or lack thereof? Because after all, like, everyone but Luke dies, and Luke is really the only one that's able to confront his feelings.
That's a really fun and smart poll.
I struggle with this one because I don't know if it succeeds at some of the things that it's trying to, or maybe I think it's trying to interrogate with regards to men confronting their own emotions, sort of like evolving friendship between men, the sort of idea of male friendship and what that looks like. I don't know that this movie successfully interrogates their friendship or successfully overcomes their friendship. Like, I'm left in kind of a weird space with some of those themes, and I don't know if that's because it is more of an ensemble, and I feel like when you have a movie that's about like one dude who is emotionally constipated, I'm usually a sucker for that shit, like especially if it's a grief movie. But this one I feel left a lot more sort of all over the place.
Right, because Luke's grief isn't really reflected in, and I would even almost offer that it is Luke's guilt more than Luke's grief.
I very much agree with that.
that we're dealing with, but there's no reflection point for that. So it's not like Luke is guilty about this, and other dude is like Dom is feeling guilty because he cheated on somebody or something. Like, there's no reflection of Luke's guilt, and so that makes Luke a very compelling character, but then everyone around Luke a little bit less interesting. And they're all like set pieces to die,
which is a similar criticism that was levied against Midsommar.
Yeah, exactly. And we were the leviers. We levied that. I don't really know what that means, but we levied, like we built a dam. So I think that, like, here's the deal: this can be a story about just one guy's guilt. But then there's a lot of the other guys' information. And I think that's where, when reading about the novel seems to have a little bit more of those reflection points with the conflicts that are going on with the three other lads that are on this trip. I do think that men taking vacation together is an interesting thing to explore and look at and see how it is important for them, tracking their trajectory from being boys who went to university together to being men who now have adult lives that they're dealing with and navigating, but continue to be tethered to this once a year trip. And yeah, if I had a group of 4 really close people I like bonded with, and one of them passed away, the first time they took that trip would be very complicated. And that does sort of set up why we're here, what's going on, and like the sort of overarching dark cloud of the group and sort of how they interact with each other.
And I do love that setup for this movie. The fact that they have this regular trip that they do tend to all try to figure out the destination for together. But this time around, they're doing it solely because they feel guilty that their friend who died wanted to go there, even though many of them didn't want to. So I think that's like a
fantastic. Specifically,
fantastic.
no one wanted to, which I think is really fun. I think that there's maybe I read too much into things, which is a thing that I've noticed throughout the podcast. But I think that there's a lot of like very subtle character stuff that could be going on if you really like dug in. So like I get where you're coming from, but to me they're all very real people with like emotional arcs, and I think
Fascinating.
What?
I said that's fascinating because I have like the complete opposite impression. That's so I'm excited now. I'm excited because like you're gonna give me something I didn't get from this movie.
Yeah, no, and like the fact that you do feel that hole like towards the end, it's because of the loss of the men who are there. Like they get ripped out, and then the narrative around them get kind of like falls apart a little bit, and like that's what loss is. Like there's this person who was there, and like all of the narrative strings that were connecting to them have been wrenched away from the narrative. So when you're talking about how like at the end of the film, like there's not these reflection points, I look at that and see, of course they're not the reflection points. The thing that's supposed to hang there's gone. It's been smashed to pieces by an ancient god.
That's so fascinating, Marilee. I'm very excited to hear more of your thoughts on this because I'm closer to Doug's opinion on this movie.
Again, the three of you are such smart gentlemen. I fully expect myself to like, yeah, I'm reading too much into this.
No,
That's
girl.
totally fine. I love doing that. That's my jam anyway. So feel free to tell me that I'm taking the piss at any time. That's totally
Marilee,
fine.
absolutely not. This is a podcast. If you're not taking the piss, then what are we doing here?
It's a podcast with 4 people. One of us better look too deeply into it, or we're going to be here for
That's
half an
right.
hour.
I feel like we all pass the baton about that too. So it's. But I do have a third and final theme for you guys. So men will go to Sweden and get stalked by a deer monster instead of go to therapy. Luke feels tremendous guilt, as we have already discussed, for the role he played in the death of his buddy Rob. Luke is unwilling to talk about his emotions, and his guilt manifests in multiple hallucinations at the liquor store where Rob died. These hallucinations seem related to the creature's presence, as well as the wounds that manifest on Luke's chest. Is the creature eyeing Luke as a new priest to worship him? Is it because of Luke's internalized pain?
I'm glad you asked these questions. Because I think that the pain that Luke is going through is very uniquely interesting, and that we're brought back to this convenience store throughout the film by presumably the creature is visually very awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
My favorite
looks
part of this movie
sick.
is the set and production design of those hybrid forest convenience store.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it rules.
Scenes.
Oh, it's
Extremely
so
cool.
unnerving. Oh, it's just like a convenience store should never be in the woods. Like that is it's very wrong, which is what makes it so horrifying and cool, and why I think we all like it. But I love that that's what he keeps coming back to, because at its base it's very sterile and usual and common, but for what it represents to him is this deep darkness and the guilt that he's carrying around. It's interesting because this group could be therapeutic for Luke. And that is the importance of social groups, is to create spaces for healing and discussion, but maybe not this group and how it has evolved.
I think I wish that group was therapeutic for him. I think because we're in a horror space, and this isn't a slasher movie, but it has certain elements of it where one person is pulled over the course of the movie, and so you're forced to confront why was that person pulled. And in a slasher movie, it's usually comedic or problematic reasons, but here this is clearly a movie that wants you to think about it. So you could do a lot with that. And if those people were supporting him as he is continuing to revisit this scenario over and over, and if that scenario, if it were utilized to give us more information each time about what maybe actually happened versus how it's initially presented to us, I think you have a movie on your hands that I go to bat for every day of the week, you know?
Right. Oh, totally agree, Doug.
Mm-hmm. We could have had a Rashomon, Marilee.
God, I love a Rashomon. That's so good.
Rashomon actually would have been pretty good here, considering like Luke's kind of like in a place where his vision is obscured. I don't know. It's interesting. But now we're discussing a movie that doesn't exist, so.
A horror Rashomon is an interesting concept. I guess the original Rashomon is a little horrific, but
find horror Rashomon to my to-do list. I just want to say that Tyler did the notes for this, and the top, one of my absolute favorite parts of doing this podcast is looking to see what unhinged stuff we all put as like the themes and the names of it.
Drag her.
No, this is my genuine, heartfelt, emotional outreach. Tyler, I love you. This was so fun. You made me laugh so hard. I was delighted.
Oh, thank you, Mary Lee. Well, I feel like heart stuff happening is also relatable to this movie.
Because you mean claws going into a heart?
Perhaps so, David. Yeah. That sounds pretty horrifying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, David, I think you have a question for us.
This is a tee up for me. I mean, we need to ask some questions in order to consider any sort of media for this podcast. So the first thing we must ask is The Ritual a horror entry for us to consider? Were you scared watching this film?
I was not scared. I think the creature design is the scariest part. The creature itself alone makes this a horror movie.
Wow. Okay.
I found everything else to be. Now, I'm probably biased because we've just spent a whole month watching folk horror movies. But I felt a little bit after watching this, because I've watched it before and then I watched it for the pod. A little paint by numbers.
Okay.
It kind of felt like we were checking off some items on the folk horror list. And so I feel like I did not enjoy it quite as much just because it was like, yes, this trope is coming up. This cliche is coming up again.
Brutal.
Yeah, I feel that. I'll go right after you because I'm right there with you. I feel like this movie scratches the surface of its contemporaries and doesn't go somewhere that they won't, or that they will rather. I feel like, if you were to have somebody describe sort of folk horror tropes, I mean, they all show up here, but I don't know that any of them are like a deeply important part of this movie. So like seeing the runes on the trees is like a cool aesthetic vibe, but following them isn't a thing. The way they transform or the way that they indicate or help them to visualize things isn't anything. Like that as just one example, right? So I think the movie's really beautiful. I think that there's some really skillful stuff going on here as far as like making it, especially given their environment. Love the sound design of it. I think the sound design is very haunting. But yeah, I don't, and it is horror, but I don't find it particularly scary. I don't know that it succeeds at some of the things that it was trying to do in that realm.
Okay, you guys are both so fair. I have to ask, must a movie be good? Like, does everything need to be the best thing in the world? Like, what's wrong with...
Okay, I have an answer for you that might sound mean. No, things don't have to be good, but they should never be boring.
That's true. That's fair. I didn't think this was boring. I thought it was a totally solid, like, mid-budget, straight-to-streaming movie. Like, I think there was a lot better than a lot of other schlock you can find on Netflix.
I totally agree with that. I think if this movie just has so much open space, and I love open space, I love slow horror. There are certain slow horror movies that like keep me on the edge of my seat in such a way that I'm like, I need you to do something because I am like, you're edging me, horror movie, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like this one isn't particularly doing that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Wow. Horror's new to me. Folk horror, it's taken me some time. I get it. There's old gods. I now know the checklist, so I know that this movie was doing the checklist. But no, gosh, I was really scared by this movie. This is probably the scariest entry of the month for me, truly and honestly, because mostly of the things Doug talked about, and I do think that the slow boil for me, alongside the very, very dark environments. I think like it was hard to be horrified by Midsummer because it was so bright, and that like a goofy leg was sticking up out of a garden. Like it, I was scared by House Barrow, but it took the third act to get there, and by then I was doing mist puzzles. Here now at the end of the month, we're using all of the trappings that I'm familiar with for folk horror, but it's very, very scary. All of the camera focus in this film and the editing that they use camera focus with was very good at making me feel nervous. in pretty much every scene once we got into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
The walk up the hill was tense because of the emotions, and then it was the woods.
Mm-hmm.
I love those wide, or not even necessarily wide, but those like forest shots where you see so many trees, but because there are so many trees, you can't see anything. And those slow, focused, tense moments, love it. Love that shit.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. I wish they like built in some way over the course of the movie so that you kept getting more and more of that.
Well, and every once in a while something would move, and I was never sure if it was,
Oh,
it was a creature or if it was them.
Best shit. That is
My
the best shit.
imagination.
That's like some Slender Man shit, which I
Yeah.
absolutely go for.
Yeah, I mean, truly and honestly, I was mid on the movie in my review. Like, I'm probably not coming back to The Ritual, and I don't know that I would recommend it. Of the 5 folk horror that we did this month, I don't know that I would recommend this over, say, The Wicker Man.
Okay, that's unfair. Nobody's gonna recommend anything other than The Wicker Man if The Wicker Man's on a list of folk horror stuff. Like, come on, David.
But I was genuinely scared in this, and so I do think like it was fun, and I think a big thing that was missing from this that we would normally see in horror was catharsis until like the very last sequence, and then that made the last sequence so worth it to me. And I do love the creature design. I think she looks great, and she looks slay. Like, I just like great from like a scary perspective, and great from like if I had the paper mache skills, an awesome Halloween costume I could make.
So good.
But I do not.
An awesome Halloween costume you would legitimately need 3 people to pull off.
You'd
need like front donkey, back donkey, and person like laying over the top.
Right.
It would probably also have to be like one of those Stickwalker costumes as well, so you'd have to figure that out.
Yeah. I'm not okay. So I'm doing none of this. Like last year, I wore a backwards baseball hat. Like I think we need to acknowledge this is far beyond.
I don't know. There's 4 of us. I feel like we could pull it off. You know.
I'm the left side of an arcane horror. What are you for Halloween?
I'm the ass of the arcane horror.
Well, we've often said that, Tyler. The ass of arcane horror. We must, of course, need to then ask another question. This transition was terrible.
I loved it.
We don't just evaluate if something is horror on this podcast. We also must ask, is it queer? So let's discuss this movie using the concepts of queer theory. Was there anything gay about The Ritual?
A couple of guys going into the woods together.
Likely place for them to be.
Tale as old as time, but I agree with Doug. Should be gay. I do think actually there is definitely some area where like queer theory probably might have helped these people because they would just be more open to talking about their feelings. I think, how can I phrase this? Where it's basically like queer theory works because there is an absence of queerness occurring within these men. Does that kind of make sense? They're trying to act like manly men, or at least men who are like taking the piss out of each other, which is kind of another aspect of what many people would describe as manly behavior,
or at least avoidant, you know,
or at least avoidant, which I mean that could also be considered like a masculine trait when it comes to this context of talking about their emotions. I think that because they don't process their grief, and I think you all have been doing such a wonderful job of describing like how this trip could have helped with that. Because they don't, they end up falling into disaster. Because it seems like this creature is drawn to chiefly Luke's pain, but there is like a sense of negative emotion within everyone in this group, and it is sourced from the death of Rob. I think men trying and failing to process that emotion is an example of queerness where queerness is absent. Like, if we did have queerness here, if they were raised in a more queer society with different norms or more of an acceptance of feminine traits in a man, I think it would have been easier for them to process these emotions and avoid their fates. But because they don't, they fall into a heteronormative ideology of, like, men have to be strong and tough. And also they're British, so it's also kind of stiff upper lip behavior. I think that ends up spelling their doom.
I love all of that. Can I pitch you on something else instead? Like completely putting all of that aside, because you're right, that is the movie as written. However,
go deep,
Go
Marilee.
into it, Marilee.
Delve greedily
go.
and deep.
yeah, I'd love to pitch you that Luke is gay.
Yeah, he's the queer hero of this. I'm ready. Marilee, I have stitched the banner for our front. Take us to the Vanguard.
Okay, great. Because, like, listen, do I think that this is how the movie and the book was written? Absolutely not. However, I really think that a good argument can be made that Luke is gay and he's hiding it from his friends, and that is a source of like a lot of the tension early in the film because like he's constantly distanced from his friends. Why? Because he is hiding something from them, right? Number two, everyone else seems like the dynamic of the group, especially in the earlier scenes, seems like everybody else has grown up and gotten married and like have kids and everything, like, and Luke is hiding behind like lagging behind everybody else, right? Why? Because he hasn't gotten married. Why hasn't he gotten married? He's gay. He's not out. Nobody knows. He's denying like in the closet completely. Maybe he has other relationships on the side. He's not talking about it with his friends. So they don't know. That's one of the reasons why, like, he is in such a different life space than everybody else, right? Also, a group of 5 men together, statistically, probably one of them should be, right? So, like, why not Luke? I think that it could be the way that the group dynamics read to me is like Rob was the friend that kept everybody together, right? So like maybe Rob was the only one that knew that Luke was queer. And so like without him there, he's kind of like unstitched from the rest of them a little bit.
Maybe Luke was in love with Rob.
Maybe.
We're going the Balrog awaits you both. Like we're going too deep in the mind on this one. But I think that it is I think from a queer theory perspective, I think there is a lot of queerness to Luke's character. So I don't know that I've gotten a system of like understanding his repression or anything, but I do think that all the things you cite, Marilee, the secret, that secret is known by others but not understood by others, which is a main conflict point in the second act. That is a very queer lived experience. I think that there is a lot that you can see of yourself as a queer person looking at Luke's character, struggling with identifying, expressing, and communicating with heteronormative and heterosexual friends who are have not made themselves known to be allies and can use your identity or what you're going through as a weapon when it benefits them, which we'll see Dom do in the second act. So even though I don't know that I actually think Luke is gay, I do think that Luke as a character is a queer hero for us to track through this. Unfortunately, as is my normal want, I don't declare the creature gay in this instance. I think she's mother. This is literally named Motor, which I believe is Swedish for mother. I don't believe. I looked up that it is Swedish for mother. So I think there's something to play with and explore there, but I don't. Normally I'm here, I find the villain and I'm like, well, there's the gay, let's go. But this time I think Luke is our queer hero and Motor is Motor.
Yeah, no one listening to this could have witnessed what happened because for some reason all three of us were silent in our reaction, but there was a big reaction to David saying he was not considering the monster the gay thing here. And my reaction was very big because I will fully admit that sometimes, the things that get assigned like the gay role in some of these stories, I'm sort of like, I don't know if I necessarily want, Norman Bates to be our queer hero in this scenario, like as an example.
And me both, bud.
But this is actually one of those stories where, when I finished the movie, I was like, well, I'm about to go into a podcast and I got to talk about what's gay, and I'm struggling to find it in this movie. And so to me, like, this is probably a bias because I don't find any of these characters likable or really easy to identify with. So there's a part of me that I think just doesn't want Luke to be my representative queer hero, and I think it's easy for me to push that away because the story I don't think necessarily is trying to do that either. But if I'm trying to find,
is it? I know that I'm reaching, but
you weren't the only one. David also found that point there, right? So it's you're not on an island necessarily. Unless there's two of you on the island. But I think where I ended up landing was like, okay, if there is some sort of queerness here, or there's some sort of story trying to be told about queerness and its relation to masculinity and its relation to male friendship, especially ones that go far enough back that you might not necessarily know one of your friends is queer, or that you might not have been in the space to talk about it or to be supported in that. I think there is a version of this movie that isn't wildly different. In fact, isn't super different at all, where the three friends are representing the sort of traditional version of masculinity. And in many ways they are, right? They're not particularly supportive of each other. They seem to bond over taking shots at each other. They're not comfortable being vulnerable with each other at all. That if it were just those three, I think would be great. If Luke struggled with that, that's cool. But if Luke is going to be my queer hero, I need him to align with the forest and nature and the monster, which is where I am finding the queerness, right? If this is a movie where a group of men is being killed by the forest, is being killed by nature, and their gravest sin, as the only sins we get to see, are where they fail in masculinity. I mean, even the convenience store scene, I think, is presented as you have failed as a man. Not that you failed your friend, not that you failed in your own sort of development, but you failed as a man, I feel like is what that sequence is sort of depicting. Then I think the forest and the monster are the ones punishing these men for their assertion of, you know, stunted or problematic or classic masculinity. If Luke ends up embracing this potential priesthood by the end, then great. There's my queer hero, you know, because he has embraced the forest that is rejecting these masculine men. But I think we're doing a lot of work for this movie.
We truly are.
For sure.
No, please.
I just want to say, if you don't see Motor as queer, I think that you really need to think about it. How many of your queer friends have been like, what if we just like formed a commune in the woods? Like, that's exactly what she's doing. Unproblematic queen.
Okay. Listen. Okay, we'll get to it. Third act, I'm ready for the third act. Like, the third act is where this all is.
Yeah, even if Motor isn't, the fact that she and her people represent this sort of community with nature, to me, is always going to be queerer than your four guys upholding a societal system of masculinity, you know?
I believe in that, but I'm interested to get to some components of the third act that I will use to deepen this conversation around the cult and Motor herself. But I think it's time for us to jump in to the beginning of this film. So we start the film with the lads at a pub discussing their vacation plans for their annual trip. Phil, Dom, Hutch, Luke, and Rob have thrown several different ideas at each other, but everyone is rebuffed. Rob's idea to hike through Sweden is especially disliked. No offense to Sweden, but I've watched enough films this month. They're right. Once the lads leave the pub, Luke and Rob visit a liquor store. Unfortunately for them, the store is being robbed. Luke, hidden behind an aisle and armed with a bottle of liquor, watches Rob get attacked and ultimately murdered. We cut to his friends out on a mountain in rural Sweden. We learn that it is 6 months later, and they are hiking through the Kungsleden hiking trail, and eventually memorialize Rob with a photo and some booze. Unfortunately, the lads are still far from their lodge, and the elements are starting to get to them. After Dom injures his knee, they decide to take a shortcut through an old-growth forest, although the agreement is contentious.
I'm so on board for everything that happens to this point. I think everything that's happening in this movie to this point is really great. Because I don't know necessarily what the movie wants me to think about their dynamics. I don't necessarily know what the movie wants me to think Luke is going to learn. And so if it's starting in this place where Luke feels like he has failed his manhood by acting, and what he needs to learn from the forest is not reinforcing that, then like I see a wide open vehicle for some really cool exploration here. Love and am genuinely affected by the scene of them making a memorial for their friend on the top of a mountain. I am such a sucker for the idea of like taking your like dead friend, family member, whomever on a trip that they couldn't go on. That gets me every time.
Yeah. No, me too. We did that for my dad, and it still makes me emotional. So
yeah.
Personally, I think that there are 2 rules that everyone should agree to if you're thinking about doing a hiking trip. First and foremost, the first rule of hiking is simply just don't do it. Do something else. Why would you go in the
hiking? Wow. Need I use this as another opportunity, Marilee, to remind you that I hiked 120 miles on the Appalachian Trail?
Okay.
Why would you do that? Don't do that.
Humble brag.
The second rule is just stay on the fucking trail. My
Well,
God.
that is real. That is real. Do not leave the trail. The trail is marked for a reason. It is done by professionals. Please let them keep their jobs so they can keep doing this. People who walk off trails get themselves in significant danger, hurt, and end up dead. Like, it is very scary. As we will see in this film, when it is just woods, it is very frightening because you do not know which direction is which. The sun plays tricks on you. You're not going north. It's wild.
It's open water, essentially. It's the same thing.
It is exactly the same thing.
And this is why none of you should ever let me camp, because I agree with the just don't go hiking. But then once I'm there, I'm like, fuck this trail. So I'm the least prepared person to do this. I will die 100%.
Doug.
Oh, God.
I can see things over there that look cool.
We're gonna need to put a leash on you.
I mean, if you really want to. But I'm on a trail and I see infinite possibilities, I watch too much Survivor. There's an idol out there,
Oh my God, Doug. No.
Doug.
Doug.
You're exactly the kind of guy. When I was growing up, I would watch the Discovery Channel, and they had this show called I Survived.
Mm-hmm.
And every episode of I Survived was multiple different stories. And it was always, there was one woman who was talking about the horrible thing that a man did to her that she somehow survived. And
I better be the woman in this story.
And then on the other side, there was a story of a guy who did something completely stupid and somehow managed to live.
I'll be that
and
guy.
Every time, it's I was going home from the grocery store and I was grabbed and all of this horrible stuff. And then it was I was going on vacation and I didn't want to bother going on the ski lift, so I tried to climb up the mountain myself, and then I got caught in an avalanche. Every fucking time. It's you, Doug. It's the same.
If I end up on the Darwin list, at least I'm on the list for a funny story.
You're on a list. You're on a list.
Yeah.
It's good to be on a
you're
list.
the protagonist of a creepypasta story about going into the woods.
Yes!
How fun would that be?
That's the dream come true. Are you kidding me?
Immortalized.
I think I'm right.
Yeah.
Doug, I'm not going to
That's what we'll
lie.
call
You
the
look
story.
like someone who would walk into a creepypasta.
I belong in the woods. Hello. I don't want to be there, but
Sir, you belong in Fiji, Survivor 51.
that's
hello.
that's real. I
know
belong
where
in a
Doug
Fijian
actually
jungle
belongs.
is what it actually is.
Yeah.
With
producers
cameras
who
and
have
production
made
assistants
sure
everywhere.
we're not gonna walk into a horror movie.
Where I can't actually starve, I can't actually drown, I
Right.
can't actually get lost. Yeah, totally.
This is perfect.
Well, I personally feel closer to the lads at the pub, where it's just why am I going anywhere? There's a pub right here. There's alcohol and warmth. And I just think that intro scene is really, really good.
Agreed.
I think it does such a good job of establishing dynamics between the lads, because I wrote in here several times that they're lads because they really are London lads. That's
truly.
That's part of the vibe that I get from them. That's very masculine. It's just oh, we got to tease each other. We're basically high school bullies, but we're in our 30s.
But you can tell that Luke and maybe Rob, we don't get as much Rob, but we definitely get Luke, is somewhat different than the others, because the others want to move this regular meetup to brunch because they live different
Dom
lives. And they
specifically wants to move it to brunch, and this is called out. At the very beginning, the first interaction we get between Luke and Dom is hey, where are my chips or crisps or whatever, because he's British. And Luke is no, sorry, I tried to get them, but the bartender said you only get salads. And it's he makes fun of that very specific. The two of them are in the same friend group, but I don't know that they're friends or close in any particular way. It's in the liquor store where Luke is talking about this and was he wanted to do this over avocado toast and yada yada yada, going to brunch. Have you seen him, what he's become? And Rob very gently is yeah, a guy with a wife and kids and a great business. He's doing great. There is a separation between them.
Yeah.
And I think that it very clearly shows that Rob was the heart of the group. No one else wants to go into the liquor store and to keep drinking and doing the stuff that they used to be doing, but Luke. And Rob goes with him in there, not necessarily because he wants to keep drinking, but because he wanted to have a moment with his friend, and it all ends horribly.
Mm-hmm. And then we get this time skip, which is, that's interesting, right? To throw a time skip into a film.
Mm-hmm.
But I usually hate big time skips. I think that they're like clunky, but I thought that the way to do this was the right way to do it, which is to do it over credits. We do beautiful establishing shots of the Carpathian Mountains, but Sweden, and it's very effective. It's some of the most gorgeous photography. This is another gift you all have given me this month, is we have just done some gorgeous photography. Everything but that podcast we listened to had gorgeous pictures for me to look at. How dare an audio medium not have pictures for me to look at? But I do think that like this, it was giving the beginning of Wicker Man. Like it was like, you want to see isolation? Look at some aerial photography of mountains.
I also think it's giving very much Midsommar, because it's the exact same thing where a devastating loss cut to a few months later, and I think that that's another really fun thing between the two of them.
Yeah, not to mention just like being lured in by beautiful nature shots. That seems to very much be like part and parcel for folk horror in general, because it gives us a false sense of security. You know, we're in the Carpathian Mountains / Sweden. And it's like, it almost kind of looks like the Scottish Highlands, just like very like lots of hills, very rocky. The vegetation is all kind of like a golden orangish brown color, perhaps because of this time of year. But either way, like watching them walk over these hills, it kind of gives also Lord of the Rings. And I think that is again part of like this lure of security. Like it's not truly there, but we are getting to bask in nature, a nature that really has been tamed, and you know, we feel like we're on top, but then once we descend into the valley with the primeval forest, then things take a turn and we learn that we're not masters of the domain.
Yeah. Two other things I want to track with the lads. First, in a very casual conversation that's like happening in the background while they're still walking, Phil mentions the fact that he got these boots as like they're like we were $200 off or whatever, but they have like a great memory foam heel, and he didn't break them in, so he's having trouble walking with the boots. And the other thing was that first night after like the memorial, Phil and Hutch and Dom are all sitting around the fire talking about like their wives or something. When Hutch like goes and he talks to Luke alone, and he says, "I don't care what anybody says, this was not your fault." And that's gonna come up in a big way later.
Yeah.
So unfortunately for the boys, it doesn't take long for the forest to get creepy. As they wander deeper into the woods, they come across a Norse rune carved into a tree. More worryingly, they also find an elk carcass hung up in a tree, viciously gutted. As the forest makes noises as though someone or something were nearby, the lads quickly head off deeper into the woods. The group eventually comes across an abandoned cabin and takes shelter in it during a torrential storm. Exploring the cabin reveals only bad news: necklaces with their earlier rune carved on them, as well as an effigy of a headless person with antlers for hands in the attic. With no other recourse, the men spend the night in the cabin. Each one has a horrible experience. Luke dreams of the robbery, then wakes up with bleeding puncture wounds in his chest. Hutch screams in terror and wets himself. Dom screams out for his wife Gail, and Phil is naked and praying to the effigy. That morning, after seeing hundreds of runes carved on trees outside the cabin, the group argue over routes before following Dom and Phil down a path that Hutch and Luke dislike.
Yeah, so I like, we are getting into a different film here now. So, you know, Doug earlier was like, yeah, we totally bought into this. Now we're in like sort of Blair Witchy world. There's a creepy cabin that like only a torrential storm could have got me into, and even then I would have been like, I can put up a tent in the rain. I've done it before. I would do it again. When did I do it before? When I was hiking the Appalachian Trail. Thank you very much.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. But if we had come upon a house like this, the storm would have to be tremendously bad, because it just screams no. It screams no, don't do it. But this is where my horror really got amped up, because they did some really, really effective stuff with Phil going upstairs to check on what was up there to find something to burn. And him opening the door to the room with the effigy and then screaming down for his friends and cutting to that rather than showing us what they saw, using the flashlights to illuminate them. The effigy was very, very frightening to look at, to behold, and then to sort of conceptualize what was. And to see Phil praying to it later was also pretty horrific. And I liked all of that. I mean, I didn't like it because it was unsettling, but that's made me like it.
Yeah, I think all that's really effective, for sure. This is where I die. This is the thing I see from the trail, and I'm like, what's in there? So if you want to know, if you ever need to keep me from doing something, you know exactly what to look for.
Oh my god.
Oh no, Doug.
I really enjoy I enjoy from like an academic perspective the fact that each of these dreams or horrible experiences in the night are driving each man to like be forced to be vulnerable. Like Luke has to confront his guilt. Hutch wets himself after appearing like very manly man who's in charge of the hike and everything. Dom is screaming out for his wife Gail, who like Dom just doesn't seem like, he seems kind of like the old ball and chain type, but you know, him screaming out to her definitely reveals that there's something more to him. And then, of course, Phil naked and praying to the effigy. I mean, you can't be more vulnerable than when you're naked. That is the most vulnerable that a human can be. Praying to the effigy also is amping that up. And I kind of wonder, like, if the creature is the thing doing this, is it trying to just fuck with Phil, or is it trying to convert Phil? Is it trying to convert all of them, or is it really still just only focusing on Luke? I don't know, gang. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, I see, Marilee, you have a theory about the Phil thing. I find Phil's dream, or not even dream, right? Because we don't hear about that. We just see sort of what he's doing. I find it confusing, and I don't know what the movie wants us to interpret that to be in relation to Phil. And part of that is we don't really learn that much about Phil.
I have some theories about Phil, but...
Yeah. That is why I would love to hear from you about Phil.
Okay. So my theory is like, and this is the thing that I've always thought, even from like that first time I watched the movie, when I didn't even know about like the queen that's coming later. My first thought has always been that the reason why Phil was upstairs naked praying to the effigy was that it was a direct retaliation from that force that we know is in the woods with them. Like, he made fun of the effigy. He offered $1,000 to anyone else who would go up there and sleep with, like, near it. And so, like, this is it directly retaliating against him trying to make fun. And that's what I've always thought about that.
Actually, now that you say that, that does make me think about Dom screaming out for Gail. After Phil makes that joke saying, like, you know, pay you £1,000 if you sleep up there, Dom says, I don't think my wife would like that. So I think that that's actually like kind of like an interesting little detail. Like, I understand the horror that comes with not knowing. So we don't know specifically what was going through everyone's minds except for Luke's, and then a little bit of Dom's later, when this nightmare sequence happens. And I think that works on a horror level, but as someone who's on a podcast talking about this and theorizing and everything else, I wish we could have gotten some more information, because I really want to know more about what was going in everyone's heads during this sequence. Because I think
I'm happy to theorize about it later once we know a little bit more of the plot stuff. But I just want to say that I do think that it's really interesting the ways that they are made vulnerable, like we talked about, and like specifically how it relates to them, because like we hear Hutch talk about like he has daughters, but he never mentions his wife, so I think that he was divorced, right? We know that Phil is married, but what his relationship with his wife we never really hear, because we talk about him talking about his wife at one point and how she is friends with Gail, like Hutch is kind of he's the biggest guy among them, right? And he's like kind of made like a child wetting the bed, right? I think a lot of what happens to them in that first night is all very intentional by Moher, if no other person. But that's my film theory.
Yeah, I didn't get most of this. Again, this is where it felt to me like this was all very horrific for the sake of Luke's character, experiencing it as our POV, rather than trying to figure out who they were, because it really was just about who they are as extensions of his character, and it all sort of stems back then through the Luke of it all. And so it's really just to raise Luke's stakes. He's now hiding a second thing from them. Not only his ongoing guilt about the grief of his friend, but he hides these gaping chest wounds from his friends who have all gone through something traumatic, but he does not share his trauma with them. And that seemed to be the only thing that was important about all of this. But like, why pray to the effigy? Why wet yourself? Why call out for your wife? I think the Gale was the one that it probably gets explained the most through later scenes. But yeah, I think to me, it was all just about filling out Luke's character as not taking action to share his when everyone else visibly had to.
So on the hike, the lads discuss whether their experiences in the night were supernatural or not. Phil specifically wants to talk about it. Luke's on his team, but Hutch and Dom negatively do not want to discuss it at all. They also find another cabin and other evidence of a settlement, but they choose to forego exploration here. Eventually, Luke goes up to the top of a ridge to get the group's bearings, but is frightened off by something very large watching him. Upon returning to the group, Luke tries to share what he saw, but Dom in particular doubts him. In the ensuing argument, Luke accuses Dom of getting them stuck in the forest in the first place after injuring his knee. Dom retorts by calling Luke a coward for letting Rob die. The group eventually comes across an overgrown tent containing a credit card that expired in 1984. While everyone is freaked out, Hutch proclaims that this is a positive sign, that they're going in the right direction, and that rescue is coming. That night, Hutch is taken away screaming by an unseen creature. The lads search for Hutch, only to find him that morning impaled on a tree, dead. Dun dun dun.
I would love to talk about this Luke-Dom exchange, because one of the things I find like difficult about this movie is sometimes it feels like it's about four guys, and sometimes it feels like it's about Luke. And I think one of the things that complicates either one of those things is that I think the movie often ends up being about Dom and Luke, which means it can't be about one person and it can't be about four people. So if it's only about Luke, they're exploring too much of Dom. And if it's supposed to be about all of them, Phil and Hutch are completely underutilized. But because it does end up focusing on the two of them, those are the ones that like you kind of have to think about the most. And I think Dom is in this odd space, and I would love to hear what you all think about what this story is supposed to be telling us about Dom and what we are supposed to be feeling about Dom. And similarly Luke, because Dom from the jump is made fun of by his friends in a way that is not like a fun jokey thing. It's like, you're fat. Like, it's just like, okay. And it's because of a thing he wants to eat, right? Or we're going to make fun of you because we think you're fat because you don't want to go hiking. Like, it's all these weird sort of things that like they're creating a value system around and holding him to that end up feeling mean, not fun, right?
Yeah.
And it does feel particularly dogpile-y on Dom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, they all doubt his injury. Is that even, are you even feeling bad? Or are you just kind of lazy? Like, it is constant.
Right. It's weird because it's not necessarily about his values or decisions or the things he says, right? Which is frustrating. But then we get this moment where Dom is the one to call out Luke for letting Rob die. And I don't know that the movie has made us feel sympathy for Dom necessarily. I feel like I do as a person. I don't know that the movie is making us critical of his friends. I feel like the movie kind of wants us to be critical of Dom. But then putting Dom in that position further makes me be like, wait, how am I supposed to feel about Dom? Because I feel like you've wanted me to think that he's a burden. And then I also now feel like you want me to think that he's like the mean one.
Right.
I don't know. I have other stuff to say about Luke, but I would
one.
love to know more about how you guys were feeling about Dom.
I was also struggling with this, Doug, because I needed somebody to confront Luke about his guilt. Because it helps move the Luke guilt radar that I am very, very invested in. I need somebody to tap on that thing and be like, is this still working?
Yeah.
But then to have it be Dom, because of all the complications that you just shared, I think that 5 minutes before it happened, I was like, anybody could say something. And then Dom said it, and I was like, okay, anybody else could have said something, and I would have been happy.
Yeah.
And it ended up like not working. And I felt like it was like the David pleasure button, and like to push it and not get it to go was so frustrating, because somebody calling you out on this thing that you have so much mired internal guilt about, that a demon is somehow like harvesting it and has selected you as its like next worshiper, is so fucking cool. And then I felt like we dropped the ball at the last second because of all the ways that we had like teased Dom, because he's just this weird character. And then he ends up being like the like second to last survivor, and that confuses everything too. Like this is, I think, where the movie like dropped from a really fun experience to like a little bit more confusing experience to me, and I lost a little bit of my engagement. And here's where I started to get a little bored.
That's fair.
I don't know that they move forward as characters beyond this point, and I didn't know that they necessarily were leading up to it, but I could have been sold on the fact that they were going somewhere until here.
Right.
To me, it feels like this moment is also there to make the reconnection that Dom and Luke have in the third act of the film feel more like valuable and emotional. We feel more for Dom and what he's going through, because he kind of realizes his mortality, and they're able to have like an emotional connection. Really, the only one that two men have in this movie is like on the point of death, but we'll get there later. In this particular scene, though, Doug, I'm really happy that you called all that stuff out, because that was also the vibe that I was getting. I feel like it doesn't really need to be said, but there is, of course, a long history of chubby, fat, overweight characters being like mocked in films, in books. Thanks J.K. Rowling for all the fun fat phobia and all of those Harry Potter books, for instance. So I think it's just kind of like, and Dom's not even like fat, like he's just like a little pudgier, and his face just is like a little softer than the other guys. But like, because he is considered like overweight, he has some sort of moral failing, which is why he kind of is perceived as being like a little bit of a baby, a whiner, and he does kind of like act dramatically, but not in such a way that I think would be unrealistic for someone in his situation, because we see his knee, and his knee is really jacked up.
His knee is fucked up.
So the fact that he hiked for as far as he did with his knee that bad, and then having them say like, I need you to push through the pain a little bit more, Dom, is like really bullshit. And it's just, but it because it's said by someone like Hutch, we're kind of more inclined to listen to Hutch, because Hutch has seemed to be a more sympathetic figure up until that point.
So I do think Hutch is more sympathetic, but I actually think Hutch is like the most two-faced of everybody. Like I think Luke is the mean girl, and we can all agree on that. Like he's but Hutch, he's like, I know that I called this out earlier, but he says, I don't care what anybody else says, you're not to blame. And like, even during that conversation earlier on, is like, people are saying that you're to blame, and I am there for those conversations. We don't know what he says in them, but he's then going to Luke and being like, I didn't think that, like, it's very reality star girly. You know what I mean?
It's giving season 3 of The White Lotus, which is kind of figuring into this whole mean girl drama, where it's like, oh, can you believe her? Can you believe her? You know.
So you're saying Hutch is Leslie Bibb?
Yes.
Okay.
I trust you on this.
Yeah, you just have to.
Implicitly.
You just have to, Marilee.
Yeah.
But yeah. I love love you highlighting that Luke interaction, because it is like the shit that people on reality TV constantly get in arguments about. It's like, well, why didn't you say that in front of everybody? I don't believe it if you're just saying it to my face. They don't hear you saying, like, it's like fully that interaction. But I do also, I have to harness my inner Jeff Probst here a little bit, because there was a silent reaction to you saying that we can all agree that Luke is the mean girl. And I'm not letting David and Tyler get away with it.
I did not agree to this stipulation that Luke is the mean girl.
Yeah. I would buy Hutch being the mean girl more than Luke being the mean girl.
Yeah, I would buy Hutch being the mean girl.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know
Hutch is, he's the queen bee of the group. Like, Rob was the center. Hutch is the queen bee. Luke is, I think he's a little bit meaner than everybody else, but he's a bitchy gay, so like, that's fine. I'm telling you, this is my theory. I think Phil he's there, and Dom is like he's the kind of oppositional force between Luke and Hutch. The two of them have an alliance, and I think that like Dom is kind of like he has a very strong personality of his own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Phil kind of gets lost in the background a little bit.
I was going to say,
as the only actor of color in this movie.
You
For
saying
real.
Phil is there, period, couldn't sum up Phil's
Phil is there.
whole role better.
I think Phil is the richest one there. Like he's the rich guy who's like, I think he probably helped fund
because
the
of his
trip. He was
boots.
like the one who was like,
Can I tell you, Marilee said I think he's the richest one there, and I went, in character?
I thought
You've
that's what
gotta
you
be
were saying
out
at
of your
first too. And I was
damn
like,
mind.
Marilee. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I think that's
money
what
rich,
the
fine.
boots are supposed to sort of signify. As
Yeah,
this is a
and,
guy
like-
who thought he was prepared because he can pay to be prepared, but is not necessarily. But there is
Yeah.
like one detail about that. Come on, movie, like give us something to chew
two
on.
details. He was like, I will give you £1,000, which he has access to, no problem. Nobody else would be able to match that bet, it feels like.
I think
Two details, Doug.
I'm willing to buy that only because I think the movie wants us to think that he is rich. I don't think it's a wild thing for people to bet each other money they can't actually pay
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Yeah,
Especially
I
a bunch
would-
of lads.
Yeah.
I'd
that's
bet
fair.
Doug things right now. Here, my problem is that even if there were 3 other things in this movie, it never does anything with it.
Yeah.
He doesn't get like we don't go the Freddy route in which he gets impaled on money or something.
Sure.
We don't there is no sort of richness to explore, and that the richness is really community, and community is the real value. That never gets delivered. So it doesn't even matter. That's again the problem. And Doug brought this
Actually,
up. It's
Sorry, finish that thought, but I thought you reminded me of something when you were talking. But
give it to us. Give it
so
to us. No,
Phil,
give it to us.
There is almost nothing with Phil, right? But the one thing that there is with Phil, even beyond sort of like the hints that he's the richest one, is he is the one from the hut forward that is like, can we talk about what is happening here? Something is in this forest. Something happened to us. But, and I love that. I love that one of them is trying to, but I don't know that effort is, like you're saying, David, I don't know that they do anything with that for Phil.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know that there's a reason that Dom couldn't have been the one who wanted to talk about what's going on with them, especially because they already have Dom positioned as this person who never wanted to be there in the first place. Like, especially.
Yeah. No, I think that the reason is like that Phil is constantly like, hey, I want to talk about this, because he is the meekest of them personality wise. That's why Hutch and Dom both feel very comfortable talking over him. Luke also wants to talk about it, like very definitively. He's like, yeah, there's something weird here. But because Luke is already on Dom's shit list, he's able to fully ignore him. Hutch also doesn't want to talk about it for his own personal reasons, because he's embarrassed he wet himself. That's why he's on Dom's team there.
Yeah. I think we have done so much more analysis than the film actually offers for itself, truly and honestly.
100%. But like, I like, I don't know, I like digging. I see that there are threads that could be here, and I'm coming with string, baby. I'm gonna tack him up.
I feel like we are flirting with Phantom Menace revisionism, where everyone said like, actually, Phantom Menace is a politically genius film and was unappreciated in its time. And it's like, well, no, it's not.
This
this
movie would have benefited from Jar Jar Binks, is what I'm saying.
I like the world you are building, Marilee, but I think you're the one building it. You know, like,
Yeah.
I don't know that the movie has done enough to really be in your corner, but I am. I like what you would have written.
and like,
I appreciate that.
but
Listen,
honestly,
if we want to talk about,
it's like we said at the beginning, though. Like, if we're not digging too deep, then what are we doing here? Like, that's the point of a podcast talking about horror media.
listen, if we want to talk about text, I want to talk about the abandoned tent. Because
Abandoned tent.
yeah, I think it's like deeply horrifying. It reminded me a lot of like, I'm gonna pronounce this name so horribly, and I like to apologize to the entire country of Japan. But there's this forest called like the Angahora Forest, I think it's what it is. But it's like at the base of Mount Fuji, and a lot of the time, it's a bit of a thing where people will go there to commit suicide, and people will like go through and like find these abandoned camps of people who went there to die specifically. And like that was the kind of visual that I was getting when they like find this nylon tent on the ground and they like go through it, and just the idea of finding an abandoned tent with shoes and a wallet inside, and Hutch proclaiming full confidence, hey, this is a good sign. This is a sign that we're going to get found. My guy.
Yeah.
Their reactions are so wild, because one of them, I don't remember who, also seems to interpret it as like, oh, they just like, they abandoned their stuff and went, right? Like there's a way out because these folks up and got out. And it's like, why would they bury their shit?
Well, no, it's not that they buried it. It's just that time buried it. They left this tent and the poles collapsed, and it's been out here. Presumably this film takes place in the present day of 2017. So this has been here since 1984 or like at the very earliest or latest, excuse me, the very latest. This has been here since 1984. Because that's when the card expires. And just the idea that like somebody would have, this is a good sign, guys. We're going to get rescued. This right here is where people get rescued. Insane. Yeah. Insane.
I think it's an interesting set piece to use because you've already got a disused set piece in the like creepy house that they stayed in. But like a creepy house is a creepy house is a creepy house. They're always creepy. They're always houses. They're creepy houses. A disused tent and adding the particulars of the personal effects does add a second texture of disuse that kind of like enhances my horror profile. But then again, I'm burdened with all this like, who are these men? Why do I care about them? And then one of them dies, but I don't really know who he is, and I can't even like grapple with his death except that it affects the other three. That's the problem. Is like, this is like the tent is a very effective set piece that I feel like then is misused.
Well, yeah, because the tent tells us as an audience definitively that what is happening to them has happened before. Exactly. And merely, like, I think you reacting the way that you did is like what the people making the movie probably want us to like, how they want us to react, but then they don't write any of their characters to react that way. So I don't get the sense that any of the three remaining people are seeing this and being like, except maybe Phil, because Phil's not allowed to talk, like they shut him down all the time. Like, it doesn't seem like any of them get what we got from it, which is like, oh shit, we are not just lost, and these are not just accidents. Something's like hunting us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My only other thing, and this is a thing that I've always like thought, well, that's probably why this is there, but I've never even thought to consult IMDb. So this is just a theory in my heart. But we do see that
I like
photo
your heart's
of the
theories. That's good enough for me.
Thank you. If you see that photo of the family, right? I'm 98% sure the movie wants you to believe that the woman from that photo is the one that talks to Luke at the end, right? Like she's the one who gives like that info dump. And she talks about how like extending your natural lifespan, and that's why she still looks so similar to the photo. But she's styled so differently. I have no idea.
I picked up on that though. I think I think that is a correct pull.
Nice.
And I think there's text to support it. But yeah. Let's talk about Hutch's death a little bit before we move on. David already touched on this, that there's not really much of a feeling that you get. It's just kind of sad because it's sad for the characters that Hutch dies. But I do think it's
I think there's supposed to be. I think they think we're going to have a certain reaction to Hutch dying that they fail to actually deliver. I know that I know that we are getting from Hutch some like Mean Girl vibes or Rancid vibes. I don't think the movie thinks that they are writing him that way. I think the movie is trying to write him as the one with hope and the one with you know, who they can follow. They've undercut themselves already because he's like, you're the strongest of us, and it's like, whatever. But I think the movie thinks that is the moment where they have lost their pin.
Agreed. Yep. And and then I think that the film even asks us to then go like, oh, did he get picked because he was the strongest one? But because I don't think any of the four of us bought that premise, we might not have seen that analysis. Like, I did not read Hutch to be like the stabilizing force that the monster would choose to then remove from the equation to destabilize the group, which I think, to Doug's point earlier, that's a very slasher thing to do.
And what's wild is they could have this is the movie getting in its own way. They could have convinced us that Hutch was that person if Hutch was the one person who was willing to break from the masculine structure, right? If he's the first person to talk about what happened, if he's the person who's willing to physically comfort someone, which none of them do until maybe the very, very end, then I would easily buy that. And then I would also buy into the fact that not necessarily that they're being punished for their masculinity, but that the forest is pitting them against each other in some way, or that the forest requires pain and this sort of this obstacle, you know.
That being said, the sequence of, even though I don't really care about Hutch dying, the sequence of Hutch being taken was effective.
Yeah.
I think playing with the presence and absence of the flashlight, I think the zipper sound is a very scary for anyone who has been camping. The sound of a zipper when you are unaware that a zipper should be engaged is a very frightening sound when you are in a tent.
And that's why you lock your tent zippers while you're inside of it, everybody. Don't go camping, but if you do...
Oh my God, barely.
But if I lock it, then it's going to take me that much longer to get out when I hear an interesting sound and want to investigate.
No,
David, we're going to...
This is why...
Okay, I don't have anything to say about that.
If you hear a song, don't you want to see the performer and give them props?
No, especially not in the woods at night.
My God.
If I hear music in the woods at night, I'm
giving them $1.
No.
Doug is the Skull Kid from the Lost Woods of The Legend of Zelda. He was just like, I'm going to follow this tune. Here I am. Now I'm cursed to play it for the rest of my life. Better bring the moon down.
Doug, this is what I was saying before about you're basically a creepypasta protagonist going into these woods. Because that's straight up creepypasta shit.
I'm ready.
Oh, my God.
Well, Hutch is dead. Here's the deal. Hutch is dead. They have a little rushed burial for him, and then they're back into the woods. It gets close to sunset, and Luke again ventures to the top of the ridge, but this time he sees something. Salvation is near. They can see the lodge at the end of the forest, but amidst all of that, he also sees something burning on the tree line, like little fires that have been lit, and that is interesting to him, and he wants to go back and tell his friends, but by the time he gets back, he suffers another hallucination, and Phil is attacked by the same creature that killed Hutch. Luke and Dom, both worse for the wear, try to run, and they discover a lit path and find Phil's impaled body. The two are then knocked unconscious. Luke and Dom awaken in a basement, and an old woman is inspecting Luke, finding that he has puncture wounds, and reveals to him that she has puncture wounds just like his. Dom is dragged upstairs and beaten, ? Something happens to him upstairs, and we hear it, and he looks worse for the wear when he gets downstairs, but the upstairs we will get to in just a little bit, because that is horrifying. Upon Dom's return, he tells Luke that Luke must escape because Dom will not survive. Dom tells his friend that he is to be sacrificed, and he dreamed of seeing his wife Gail before she became a monster. That night, Luke attempts to break free as he watches Dom be sacrificed. He is tied to a structure and facing the woods, and a vision of Gail appears out of the darkness and comforts him. However, the vision fades, and Dom sees that he is actually being apprehended by the creature in all of its horrific glory. Dom is then impaled on the tree nearby by the creature.
Bow, 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 bow. She's here.
Poor Phil.
Yeah, we don't see her in full yet. We're still doing a lot of good horror. You don't see the monster. You see people reacting to the monster, and
And they give you a little bit more each time, so that they're not doing the thing where you never see it.
Yeah.
It's kind of credit. It's kind of credit where it's due, but it's also kind of, to like Tyler's very earlier point, a little checklisty, because we are almost doing it like as by the numbers as you can. Like, ooh, a hand, ooh, an antler.
I love the hand though.
Me too.
Oh my God,
the hands
so
around the tree.
good.
It's good and it's effective, and the creature design, again, we've already talked about, is fantastic. But it is almost a little bit like, well, we're gonna do a slow drip on the creature, and this is that slow drip. There's a lot to talk about here. I guess I want to start with the funeral, because it is this like moment of allowing grief, and Dom is the one who insists upon it, which again feels like a strange character to be the one driving that forward. But like, the deck is low on the cards I could pull for who's going to do this. It's not going to be Luke. Luke's on a mission to get the fuck out of these woods.
Understandable.
It doesn't.
Is Dom a character who is written to be like a quote soft, emotional, vulnerable man by two men, or a man who is not emotionally vulnerable or emotionally in tune? Is that why Dom comes across so strangely?
His emotions seem very volatile, is the thing.
I
Like, it's not necessarily like a sensitivity thing where he's like seeming weak. Instead, he bursts out in anger or tantrums. So like earlier in the film, when he's just like, I'm done, I can't move anymore, I need to sit, he's very kind of like tantrumy about it. Here, it's kind of a similar reaction where, you know, Luke says, we got to get the fuck out of these woods. And Dom is very insistent and very angry about wanting to bury Hutch. And Doug, I think that's such a wonderful question, because I can't find the exact answer that you're
I'm like actively trying to figure it out, so I don't, it's a messy process and a messy question to ask. But yeah, I mean, even us describing the way that Dom acts as like tantrumy, I think is like a confusing thing that the filmmakers have presented us with, right? Because Dom is the one who wants to offer some sort of burial and insists on doing it. And I don't know if we're supposed to feel like that's foolish because they need to keep moving, or if that is like endearing because it's allowing emotional vulnerability.
Right. And so the problem is, like, essentially we've got a character here with poor emotional regulation, which is neat as a therapist, but it's a little less neat for a like consolidated piece of media, like a 2-hour movie. Like it's just too volatile, unless you are literally writing just My Dinner with Andre and he has emotional dysregulation. Like that can work, but in this horror movie, it doesn't work because it makes Dom complicated. And the other thing I was looking for here, because it's Queer as Folk Horror Month, was the introduction of some sort of Christian burial rite in a world of an old god, bringing the concept of a new god. But then we don't do that either.
Yeah, where's the little makeshift cross or something? You know, that would have read very clearly given the environment that they're in.
Exactly. But then we didn't do that either, and so then I was left again, kind of being like, I mean, Doug, you said it, like, I felt edged. I felt like there were 3 things we could have done here, and we did like 2 of them 25% of the way, and didn't even touch the third one.
Yeah.
And then we moved on.
Hence the checklist of it all. It feels like, yeah.
I wonder if, because this was adapted from a 700-page book, if the picking and choosing they did was just maybe sort of like the wrong picking and choosing, but from a place that I understand, right?
Yeah.
Because if they decided they needed to cut out some of the stuff that we would have had a lot of fun with, but that they interpreted as mostly just fun and not like emotional core, I could see where we end up without that stuff and all the stuff that is just about these 4 guys. But if they then took the emotional core of a 700-page book and turned it into a 2-hour movie that has other stuff to get to, I can kind of start to see where maybe it doesn't get as deep as maybe the book does, or as we would get there ourselves.
Right.
But I don't know yet. I'll have to report back when I read the book.
Yeah. So real quick before we move on from Dom, I think him revealing in this like 11th hour that that first night he saw a nightmare that was him seeing the future and like describing everything that was going to happen, impeccable. I loved that. I thought it was so fun, especially considering at one point during that fight, Luke punches Dom in the nose and he goes, "Did you break my nose?" And Hutch is immediately like, "No, he didn't break your nose. Calm down." And that's a bit of like that thing about how Dom is always like complaining about yada, yada, yada physical stuff. We've already talked about this. But if you pay attention, his nose is broken at the end of the movie. He gets broken by the cultists. And so I think he saw a vision of himself with a broken nose when he was about to die. And so like him being like, did you break my nose? I think comes from, it's very fun to think about in retrospect or on rewatches. And so like I thought that was really nice. Like I liked all of that. Can we talk about Phil and what's going on with him?
I would love to talk
I'd
about
love
Phil.
to talk about Phil.
Okay, he's dead, but let's do it.
Yeah. Well, he lives and dies here. During that last little bit where we still have of him, like I think it's just really interesting to me. Before Luke goes up the hill, he says that that night when he was praying to that effigy, like something got into his head that night and it's never left, right? And then he sits down and he like his body language is he's like totally shut down, right? And then the next time when you see him when he's dead, his body is positioned on the tree in that exact same way, facing away from everybody else. I don't know what this is supposed to mean, but I do think it's really interesting. And like the idea that night something got into his head and like never left, and like that's part of the reason why he's been so quiet is because like he's got like a mental invasion that he's dealing with there. I think is also very interesting.
I think it would have been cool to play into these things more, because what you were just describing with Dom, real quick, it sounds very Stephen King-esque of someone kind of falling into the the irony, their tragic fate, but they have a dream. And they don't really realize that it's supernatural in nature, but it's still like kind of happening. It feels kind of like it, I think the same thing happening with Phil is also really cool. I just wish like maybe if there were like a longer cut of this movie and there was more time to breathe, it would be really fascinating to dive more into their experiences, because I think a good movie that does this is the Blair Witch Project, which has a similar runtime. But is even more like stripped down, and they are still able to kind of get across these like confessions after withholding information, and it has a great emotional satisfaction from that. I wish we could have gotten a little bit more of that in this movie, but the bones are there, and I think that's why we kind of keep on coming back to like I wish with this movie for David, Doug, and I, is that like we see something that would be so fascinating to dig further into, and Marilee, you are finding it like a truffle hound, and I think that's wonderful. But I just wish, my God, that there was some meat on those bones. Give this movie a sandwich.
Yeah. Hey, you want some meat? It's in the first female spoken line of this film, 1 hour 20 minutes in, from Gale, who appears as a vision to Dom. But I've got to say, this was very effective.
Yes.
I loved her coming out. I loved how soft spoken she delivers his lines. I love the tenderness between what is the monster's hallucination and Dom. It is this very sweet moment. It's giving me catharsis before it's giving me horror, and that was also a nice little subversion. So flowers were their due. I liked it, and I feel like this was a great performance for like 30 seconds too. Like, and it's impressive to stick out in my mind and only have that much screen time.
Agreed. Maybe I'm diving too deep here, but what the hell?
No such thing.
Impossible.
Also,
No such
I'm
thing.
already at the deep end.
This podcast is already an ocean. If we want to talk about like feminist theory in here and feminist criticism, I think it's fascinating that when Gale appears, she has one line of dialogue and it's saying her husband's name. This movie really, I think, could have benefited from a Florence Pugh sort of influence in some way as part of the crew, or perhaps they get we have flashbacks to Dom's life, like these brief snippets, just to get some more time and some more emotional connection. And that can also make the horror worse when the revelation happens that it's actually the creature that is the origin of this vision and not Gale. I think that would have been terrific, and I think it also would have provided an opportunity for vulnerability that these men seem incapable of opening up for themselves, which one could argue is to the detriment of the film itself, because that means that If everyone is too emotionally constipated to talk about their feelings, then they're not going to develop as characters, which is why it feels kind of hollow when some of these deaths happen. And again, Marilee, I love that you see so much more in this movie than we do. I think we're all just kind of hoping and wishing that there is more of this, so that there was more to talk about. But unfortunately, just like,
Yeah.
I mean,
But I
that's
don't
fair.
know, like, I would love more Gale in this movie, but I don't know that, and I might, this isn't exactly what you're saying, Tyler, but like, I don't know that adding more of Gale or adding more of the women in their lives or adding more from the women that are present necessarily benefits this movie if what it's trying to do is deconstruct these men's issues with masculinity and vulnerability and emotional blockage, right? Like,
Yeah.
the presence or lack thereof of the women shouldn't dictate that. Like, they should be able to, and they should be forced to confront it within themselves and with each other.
Well, I think the only way you could effectively do it is change the direction of the film from the start. Instead of being Luke's POV, show us how the monster is impacting everyone's perception.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we were looking at the woods and Dom just saw his living room with his wife, or whatever version of the convenience store is for everyone. But I do think that a directorial decision to use one person as the POV was smart. But then again, to criticism we've already gone over, then you have to make it just about Luke, and we're spending too much time doing it with everybody else.
Yeah. I think that from what I gathered, like, and again, this is fully me spinning out into the universe, I think that all of the men who died here, they all got visions of their death specifically. I think that Mohair very specifically was like, I want this guy, he's the tastiest one, and so this is the guy that I'm gonna keep, and everybody else I'm inflicting visions of how I'm gonna fucking kill them. And so, like, that's why they all had, like, such big reactions. They saw their own futures and then died. And I do think that's interesting then, if everybody else saw the future, that Luke specifically was seeing the past. Again, I don't know what it all means, but I do think it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. I would like to see it. I would like to see either what they saw, or I would like to see Luke witnessing them seeing things without seeing what they are seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
One of those two
That
would
would
have gone
also
a
have
long way with
that
me.
would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
That would have been, just because we know that he's seeing visions. So if he just looked at somebody who was looking blankly off in the distance, but then I think the moment that you get that with Phil, the way it's shot, which is horrifying, which worked,
Yeah.
doesn't show us enough of Phil's face to see that he's having a vision. And so then ultimately we're back at square one, which is kind of like the film is asking us to do most of the work.
Yeah, that's fair.
A woman, much younger than the other members of the cult, enters the basement and explains the group's lore to Luke. That creature is one of the Jotun from Norse myth. In fact, this creature is called Moder, and it is the illegitimate child of the god Loki. In return for the cult's worship, Moder grants them immortality. Now, Luke is presented with a choice. Either join the cult and worship Moder, or be sacrificed. When the woman leaves, Luke finishes escaping from his bindings. Grabbing a torch, he heads upstairs, where ominously deep chanting has been heard much of the time. He finds a congregation of mummified cultists who, horrifyingly, way scarier than anything else in this movie to me, begin to groan and move. And I think they're all practical effects, by the way.
Yeah.
Good shit. Luke quickly lights them on fire, the most rational thing one could do. So good job, Luke. High praise. He escapes back downstairs, grabbing a hunting rifle along the way, and kills a cult member before taking an axe. Moder, pissed at her ritual falling apart, kills the woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are not wrong in that the mummified cultists are the coolest, scariest shit, and that Luke should have set them on fire. But if this wasn't them putting an entire banquet in front of me and then throwing it in the trash as I took my first bite, then nothing could possibly go right. Like they couldn't have done any. I'm just like, I don't even have words. I was so frustrated to see this and to have the realization of what it was, and then for them to immediately take it away.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, it's so cool. I want more.
It was
I
so
know.
cool.
Why
It was
couldn't
so cool.
I'm not
mad
going
they
to
lit
make.
them on
I'm not going
fire.
to keep putting out ways that this movie should be different. But that drove me fucking crazy.
Do it. Speak your truth, please.
No,
if you can't speak your truth here on Fear Coded Podcast, there's nowhere else.
Well, it's not even just that. It's that I try not to make it a habit of just being like, this movie frustrated me, and it should have been this other movie I wrote instead, right? But it is frustrating to see this super cool thing that they built practically and really haunting in the sort of, like, they don't even let you sit with what it means for them to be there. They don't let you sit with what they're like, that they are the punctuation on the end of this whole sort of like cultists' purpose and what they're doing. And like, they don't let you sit with the fact that, yeah, they're talking about extending life and eternal life and all this sort of stuff. And that's what it is. And like, if they're trying to bring you into that forcefully, that's what they're bringing you into forcefully. They never let you sit with that because he immediately sets them on fire, which, like, yeah, great decision in real life. But like, I want to sit with it. I want him to sit with it. The character doesn't even seem to have any sort of, it doesn't click for him. He just sees like these monsters in a room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and presumably the room that Dom was taken to and beaten, which is why I said beaten with a question mark earlier, because I think that his screams could have just been from the horror of being up there. Like that, it is a horrifying room. This is a bad room. This is a room that you should set on fire. But I think Doug's right. Like, there's no chance for him to connect the dots that this is the room Dom was in. There's no chance for him to be like, wow, this is the future that submitting to this god would spell for me, so I better say no. It's almost too much adrenaline, which is very real, but I don't always come to the movie for like the real action for a character to take.
In a horror movie, I almost never come for the real action a human being should take.
You say that, and yet say that you're also the most likely to be in a horror movie and do the most horror movie shit. So I don't know, Doug.
If I'm trying to embody, it's what I want from my horror movies. I'm trying to walk my talk, you know?
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's effectively shot when he sets them on fire. That's the other thing, is like, it's just enjoyable for me to watch because, as you said, reading the description, this is all practical. So the fire is practical. We're using either really well done puppets or actors who are wearing, flame rejecting apparel in order to create the effect of being burned and collapsing. Like, it is very, very beautiful. And it's again, horror, one of the things that we track is this like idea of catharsis, like the fear of the gasping and the slow moving is then met with the catharsis of lighting them on fire. I do appreciate that. But then I think it's asking us to do, again, the lion's share of the homework on interpreting what this means and why it pisses off Motor so much that she kills the woman that she kidnapped in the 80s. Like, question mark here.
And to be clear, like, I don't necessarily need to be spoon-fed everything in a movie, but if you don't even give us the time to then do that work, that's always going to be a thing I'm frustrated with.
Right.
That's totally fair, and I respect the hell out of that. Personally, I think that the room full of... I think the idea of being mummified alive by those cultists, horrifying. Hate that so bad. Yeah. I think that one of my favorite like effect shot in the whole film, and it's so dumb, but this is the like how I know that they did it practically, is that while he is downstairs, like at one point, like Luke, when he's got like the gun on the other cultist, you can see tiny motes of like fire embers like falling down behind him, and it's such like a little thing.
So good.
It makes me like scream. I loved it so much.
It was a great little detail because those pick up obviously as the flames of the burning cabin get worse. And it's just it does an awesome job of visually indicating the crescendo of the film as we approach the climax. Like, really cool stuff. I'm glad you called that out. I agree very much with what everyone said about these mummified worshippers. I think it's actually very cosmic horror-esque. Which we have dipped a few toes into, a few tentacles, if you will, into the cosmic horror pill this month.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last week with the Old Gods, and you could even argue that Hobbs Barrow has like a little bit of a cosmic horror edge.
Totally.
Oh yeah.
I think they're so easy to go hand in hand in a way
very
that
much so.
You might not immediately be obvious, but like once you start getting into it, it's like
Yeah,
it's like country and hip hop. You don't expect it, but when you hear it,
hell yeah,
you're like, "Oh, that works really well." Actually, roots are the same.
I love that. David, I'm glad that you called out about the woman. Seems to be the one that was in that photo from the 80s. I thought that was a nice little illustrative moment as well. I feel like this sequence in particular really pulls the whole movie together, which, I mean, a good horror movie should do that, but I feel like if I had to slog through, an hour of it, then not so terrific. But what do we... I actually don't know what else to say here, so...
Well, you know what?
I will just
I
say...
suddenly walked into a wall.
Well, we know her name. I love that the movie doesn't name Motor at all because we love a mysterious queen.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Yeah, that's an instance where not naming one of your very few female characters is a benefit.
Nice. I will also let the audience know that it's been weeks since I first watched this film, and I've been trying to come up with a pun for Jotun ever since. But I never came up with it. Sorry, Tyler. My best was going to be like Proton Jotun, but it didn't work. So, sorry that I failed you. I was gonna edit your themes and everything. I was gonna be like Proton. I don't even know her. I don't.
You Jotun be kidding me, David.
God damn it! It was right in front of me. But do you, Tyler, our resident medievalist, have any more data on Jotun? Or is this just one of the many things that Loki fucked and ended up having a lot of limbs?
Pretty similar to that. I mean, Loki is himself a Jotun. That is a similarity to the Marvel continuity. But he is the one who's kind of tricking people all the time. He can shape change, which is how he was able to have sex with, I believe it was a horse, and then that horse gave birth to Sleipnir, I think, which is what Odin rides
Odin's
on.
Horse. Yep.
Also has many limbs. But the Jotun are basically kind of like the creatures that were there before the Norse gods were. So Odin, Thor, all of them, they were the ones who came after the Jotun. Some of them are descendants of Jotun. Oftentimes we kind of think of them as being giants, but that isn't always the case, just because Jotun aren't necessarily supposed to be really tall or anything, but it really kind of changes depending on the myth. I believe there is in the Norse creation myth, the earth is formed from the body of a Jotun, and all of its fluids form the waters of the earth. Right. Stuff like that. So as far as this goes, and does it pass the Norse accuracy test? I think it's actually not super far off. I think it's kind of cool to think that Loki, A of all, is real, and B of all was having sex with other things, and it's just didn't get so much airtime. I think the immortality excuse is a little bit harder just to deal with. I think that might be an artifact from the novel. Because in this, there's no real reason for Luke to want to live forever. Especially after seeing the mummified worshippers. Luke's whole deal is that he is struggling with grief that he cannot escape from. Why would he want to prolong that by living forever? I think if they had... Again, we're doing that thing where it's God, I wish they did this thing instead for the movie. But if perhaps they had done something where the gift from Motor was more relevant to what Luke was going through, maybe you can, if you pray to Motor will bring back someone that you cared about, something like that. But maybe they're enthralled to Motor, or you can't leave the woods because they're not allowed to leave the woods. Something like that I think would have been kind of cool and would have tied back more into the themes that the film is trying to demonstrate more cleanly, but there we are. It just, we have the movie that we have.
So anyway, here's the final bit, the climax. Luke is on the move. After shooting at Motor, he runs through the forest, axe in hand. Motor makes him hallucinate that liquor store again and the death of Rob, and then hits him so hard he flies off. Motor forces Luke to his knees in an attempt to make him submit, but Luke isn't having it. He strikes Motor with an axe and takes off. Luke emerges in a field outside of the forest as the sun rises. Motor, unable to leave the forest, roars at him. Luke roars back defiantly before turning towards a paved road and walking away.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to talk about the convenience store that appears here because I think this is the best utilization of it, and we are sort of shooting it at a flat side angle as he runs through store/woods, and Motor is running after him and knocks over shelves that are not there.
Yeah.
This is the zenith of using this strategy. And for all of the criticisms that I have about this almost turns it completely around because of how fucking good this sequence is.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it because it is so putting two worlds that do not belong together in a way that I have not seen successfully done. It's Lynchian in a way. It is powerful. It's emotional because of what it represents to Luke, and it is scary because I know that a monster is chasing.
Well, and for them to pull off Motor actually ramming into that environment in a way that, like, you can buy, you know, like, I 15 seconds backed that several times and was like, this still looks cool as hell.
Looks real.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a shelf in these woods.
Yeah.
So the technical execution of this is better almost than anything we've seen so far in the film.
So good.
I fully buy that, yeah.
David, I saw here in the notes that you have some thoughts about Luke's roar, and I'm so excited to hear about this.
This is my supercut of the movie. Almost get rid of most of the movie and just have it be about Luke and his struggle with guilt, because then you get this moment here at the end where he is defiant to this creature. He escapes out of the woods, and I think you as the audience are left to wonder, can the creature not leave the woods, or is it just Luke's primal roar that he gives back, that is grief, that is accepted, that is pain, that is felt, that is a thing that he has been avoiding doing, and that has made it even worse now that it is finally erupting out of him, and that it is a respect that this old creature can feel, because primal feelings go back farther than cognitive and withdrawal and logic, and that it is Luke sort of proving through grief that he deserves to exist. And I think you can accept the woods as a boundary. That is a well-established folk horror trope, blah, fine, whatever. But I also think that it is very interesting, and here's where Rafe Spall proves it to me that he deserves everything in the world, because this scream is so well delivered.
I love that.
It's very
You're
hard
so
to do
smart.
it's very hard to do a good scream in horror, really just any kind of media.
But it's not just scream, it's childbirth. I mean, it is the birth of grief and guilt. And that is it. To watch it happen is so powerful and affecting.
I really love that take. I also really love too the idea that Motor maybe accepts this as further sacrifice. Like, the guilt is the thing that he is now sacrificing, this pain that he has suffered. He gives it back to Motor, and Motor is like, okay, we're chill. I'm gonna go back to the burning cabin now. But I maybe I'm just being cynical about this whole movie, but it also still just feels like the man has conquered and now he's equal to the god, or just like this is a neat thing for him to do at the end of the movie when we have Motor roaring.
Does he collapse in any way when he
No.
screams? Or
It's another part of Dom's prophecy, basically, that I really liked it. He says specifically, I'm gonna die, you're gonna burn this place down, and you're not gonna stop walking for anything. And that's what happens. He burns the place down, and then he walks out, and then the film ends on him walking forward towards civilization, which I thought was great.
I like that it fulfills something earlier from the movie. I like that consistency and that fulfillment. I love the idea of the roar. I was not convinced. I did not think it was great.
Okay.
And I don't know that it necessarily tells me that he has learned something about himself in this process, or his role in the convenience store, or his relationship to these guys. Love the idea of him screaming back at the monster. That is always, to me, like an incredible image, but maybe because it's at the very end of a movie that I wasn't super into, but I was sort of like, could we dub in a different scream or something? Like, I don't know if I'm feeling this, Rafe. But I'm outvoted, so good job, Rafe.
Hey, listen. Respect a blindside when you're caught in it, Doug. No. I think I think that's a perfectly fine way to view this, and I think that you have been dragged along so much that you are right to demand a little bit more for your ticket price for entry.
Yeah.
I
it
don't
all
think
has
this
to do with like
fixes
your
the
buy-in,
film.
right? Like I've bought in
Yeah.
cars.
And I love the guttural scream moment. Don't get me wrong. Like, narratively, it makes perfect sense for that to be
Right.
where it ends up. So this is me being unfair specifically to Rafe Spall and being like, come on, man. Like, make
Yeah.
that throat bleed, you know?
Yeah.
Give it to
Well-
me. Cry a little bit.
I have an Apple TV Plus series that I would love to recommend you watch, because him learning that he can't provide the seed for a pregnancy is also pretty heartbreaking. So I know Spall can do it. Maybe I was adding a little bit of flavor to that because I have seen him react with emotion, and I think that the character of Luke being so sort of measured and guarded throughout the whole film, and then just not being, I was willing to like
Yeah.
accept anything, you know. Then
Yeah.
I was like, great, finally the convenience store is open. I'll take whatever's on the shelf. But you're
No, it all makes sense, and it was affecting to the three of you. So I'm clearly the one who like wasn't buying in enough to what was being shown and what was being
You
performed.
didn't. It disappointed you so
I feel
early
fine
on.
with it, but
Yeah, no, it's just like it's one of those things where like you're bitch eating crackers about it. It's like, sure, of course you eat crackers. You know what I mean?
right.
Like
right.
you were upset with how the movie went, and so no matter, even if like this is a good bit and you like some of these things, you're never gonna like it as much because they did something wrong so much earlier. You know, I think you're totally valid. You're fine, Doug.
I do too. Huh? What? Sorry,
you so
David.
interestingly no, you're fine. You so interestingly asked, did he collapse? And I'm picturing in my mind that scream turning into sort of at least a to your knees sort of thing. I do think that visual would have been a lot more appealing to me than sort of a chest forward lean yell that we get, which is almost a little bit more performatively masculine than hurt and pain being excised from the body. And that is a much better scene that I'm picturing in my mind. So we've been workshopping this movie for the past 2 hours. We may as well not stop now.
I think that's why those moments tend to work for me, right? Is because they are communicated as this like raw, sort of unfiltered expression of emotion, right? And so to give yourself entirely over to an emotion that's kind of all of them at once feels like, similarly, Tyler, you were talking about the most vulnerable ways you can be. To me, that is one of the most vulnerable sort of like ways to exist, is to just give yourself over to this sort of primal expression of emotion.
Well, and it was the horrifying climax that we found ourselves in the last time we talked to Doug at the end of a horror movie, which was,
oh my God,
the
that's
Justice
so right.
Smith character,
Yeah.
also screaming. Yeah, this is your shtick, Doug, because you come on
You
when
know,
someone screams at the end.
Sorry, Rafe, I'm comparing you to my favorite movie of the last
Justice
year.
Smith,
So
yeah, I know, right? Oops. Yeah, this did not hold a candle to that. Sorry,
Yeah,
but that's a high bar.
So few movies can. So
right,
don't feel
extremely
bad,
queer,
Rafe.
existentially unsettling.
This one, cute monster. Like that's the like a little Jawa with lots of arms and antlers.
Oh,
like that's what we were going for.
Can I
here.
tell you, granted, as a kid, I was afraid of like everything, but this very specifically was like built to scare the absolute fucking shit out of me as a child. There are so many elements of this monster that are so specifically the things that I was scared of and would have nightmares about, that like this would have broken me entirely. I would not have moved forward in life with any semblance of safety.
Well, then, before we wrap up, let's revisit some of the questions that brought us here together. First and foremost, now that we've had our conversation about The Ritual, would you all rate this 2017 film as a horror entry?
Yes. I feel like we had a good conversation about the ways that this movie is scary, and I think I have come around a bit more to believing like, okay, there's some real scary shit going on in this movie. I kind of forgot about how effective the mummified worshippers are. I kind of forgot about how it looks when Motor's hand is like kind of doing like a creepy reach around on a tree, and
Not a creepy reach around.
you never want a creepy reach around. Let me tell you something.
Episode title.
Oh no. I do think that this movie has certainly some horror going for it. I don't know about the emotional aspects, but certainly the horror.
Yeah.
What about you all? Do you feel like this qualifies as horror? Has your mind changed?
I should clarify, like, a movie doesn't have to scare me to be horror. Like, this is unequivocally horror. I think thematically and sort of what it's trying to portray is absolutely horror.
I agree that a movie doesn't have to scare you to be horror, but this movie scared me, and I'm sticking with it. Really, really scared a lot of time with this movie. Even the second watch through, I think that when we went in the scary room of the mummies, I was just as scared as the first time. And normally a second watch gives you a little inoculation to that shit. And it did not.
No, it was very scary.
That's the rewatch value of them only showing it to you for 2 seconds, is every time you go back, you get scared all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Good point, Doug. That's what they were thinking. They were thinking, we need people to watch this scene 6 or 7 times to increase our streaming numbers. All right. So horror, we're a little bit of movement, not a ton. What about the queerness of all of this? Did you get any more vibes of this? Do we need to revisit the motor of it all? Was this movie queer?
I feel like no.
No, Doug's face, he's not bought in at all.
I don't know that I'm convinced. I came on for probably like one of the most explicitly queer movies. So again, this is tough, but like after 2 hours of talking about it, I still don't know if I would call this a queer movie or that there's much queerness in here. Like, and not even just that it's not necessarily present. I feel like this is like a pretty straight male movie. Like I think it I kind of walk away from it being like, this is a movie for bros, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I really struggle with it. I can see versions of it, and I can be convinced of maybe particular elements, but I don't know, man. Ritual, you got to try a little bit harder.
Gay version that lives in my head.
Just that's gay as fuck.
Yeah, like
Put that
did
on
that
Netflix.
convince you like how the narrative could work as queer?
Yeah. Oh, I think we collectively came up with several sort of versions of this that explores explicitly queerness, or at least delves into the queer theory intentioned reading of these characters. So there are versions of it within the multiverse. Yes, within our universe, I don't know. Ritual, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't. The queerest that I felt like I actually got textually was reading the Wikipedia summary, and it read that Hutch and Phil were getting divorced, and I was like, oh my god, Hutch and Phil are married? No, they're getting divorced from their wives. I was like, oh god, that would have been cool.
Oh, that's right, because Phil does specifically mention his wife, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because Hutch doesn't, so they were like one line away from that being perfectly possible.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how fucking cool would it be if you had this horror film and it was like 2 guys in a relationship who were trying to like break up with each other, and that was part of the horror of it all? Would love that. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to defend why Motor didn't really work for me as a queer context, and I think it's because of the like forced worship and maintaining like life despite life being over, which feels very anti-queer for me. I think that queer people have a much more nuanced or are required to sort of take a different view of life and admiration because of the way in which we find our community. And so like Motor keeping people alive to worship her for like her old god powers, that didn't work for me as a queer reading. And so then all I'm left with is like Rafe Spall yelling and like what queer has not wanted to shout loudly. That's really all I have at the end of the movie.
And she's sort of like fueled on pain, right? Is that our reading of it? Is that she is?
Yeah, I think that she eats it. I think that's her whole thing.
Yeah, and I've known some guys who eat things, but not pain. Like that's a different.
And if our characters, if Luke even, you know. Well, no, because Luke's not one of the ones who's going to get sacrificed. Maybe there's a thread I can pull on. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I encourage everyone to stop thinking about this movie in approximately 5 minutes. So,
what a great way to transition into me saying, "Hey guys, do you have any other thoughts for this movie? Anything that you could do in about 4 minutes, 45 seconds?"
Well, wait, Marilee, are you still asserting that this is queer, or that there's queerness within this movie?
I think if you want to find queerness, then you can. And I think that's my whole thing here. Like I've always said that if you want to find queerness, you can find it. And I've offered a couple different potential readings of Motor specifically, as well as as like our main character. But if you guys like, I understand that I am on a thread. I'm on a ledge. There is not a lot of stuff supporting me, but baby, I'm still gonna look. I'm still gonna go find it. And personally, I think that if you don't think Motor is is queer, then that's on you, because I support women's wrongs and I think she's great.
She looks great. That's what I'll say. She looks great. She moves great. Excellent creature design.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts for this episode?
Creature designers, I'm kissing you directly on the mouth. That's all I got.
That is
With
100%. Yep, I'm with that. Also, I would like to see another attempt at adapting this book.
Yeah. I mean, again, Hollywood, call me. Like, invest in this project.
Yeah.
Because I think the four of us have given you at least one other version of this film that would work.
Yeah.
And we brought this up when we were introducing the film, but sort of I don't think we're the only people who were middling on this. So if you sort of vibed on our conversation, just know that like we're about where contemporary reviews of this film were. Some people lauded it. Checklist got brought up in a couple of the reviews that I read, so not outside the realm of possibility to say that it's Checklist. And Bored showed up in a fair number of contemporary reviews, and you don't love to see Bored.
No, that's bad.
That's what I was saying.
bad.
That's the
Yeah.
worst sin. Being bad is better than being boring.
Exactly.
Yeah. Were you bored watching Strays from 1991? No, it was awesome.
Well,
Bad.
there it is.
There it is. Doug, thank you so much for joining us. We talked a little bit about some of the other things you're working on, but remind folks where they can find all of that and you online out in the world.
Yeah, you can specifically find all of that at glitterjaw.com. You can find me everywhere at Ikkybooley, ICKYBOOLEY. And from any of those accounts, I'm probably linking to the podcast accounts and promoting all that stuff. So if you can find Glitterjaw or you can find Ikkybooley, we've got the search results pretty much covered.
Excellent.
I love that. Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to plan a lads trip over avocado toast, which there's nothing wrong with doing, you can join us on Instagram and Blue Sky at Fear Coded Pod.
Yeah, and as Doug mentioned, this podcast is also a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you'd like to listen to more queer media podcasts, including the amazing dive that Doug and Derek are taking into openly queer represented characters in animation on their Falling with Style feed, you can find the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com. And what's that? Is that white smoke rising out of a chimney? Because I've got news from the Catholic Church for Tyler and Marilee specifically. You have been excommunicated out of the church next month as we cover Catholic and religious horror specifically. And we'll start by having a little faith with the video game Faith from 2017. But until then, I will simply say, I don't know, Vatican City for goodbye. Arrivederci!
Oh my God.
Goodbye! You have to say bye. I can't end the podcast if you don't say bye.
Worship Nuada with a wicker man, and then get that pagan shit out of here, because we're gonna be super Catholic and scary for the rest of the month.
It's all Catholic. Woo, 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 woo.
I don't know what to do anymore. Please listen to the podcast.
Conclave, goodbye.
Bye.